facing off against Eric Hawkins, both at 10-1. Mono blue aggro from Tannon's side. We've seen him on camera before, as well as Azor's aggro from Eric Hawkins.
So the matchup here comes down to there's a major gap in the quality of the creatures in the respective deck. The white is known for having the best cheap creatures. That's the case here. The other side of it, the mono blue deck is very much in the air, and the mono white deck doesn't have a whole lot of answers to flyers. So I think in general the matchup should be good for mono white, but you can still steal it by just, as we're seeing here from Tannon, getting an enchantment, rolling on a flyer, and try to start pulling ahead that way.
Right. Now, Eric Hawkins has one of the ideal starts here from the Azor's aggro deck. Effectively a triple one-drop start, including that Legion's Landing, which transformed into Adonto the first fort. Follows it up with an Adonto Vanguard. But Tannon's side of things, no slouch either. Turn 1 Siren Storm Tamer, followed by Curious Obsession, getting some beats going, drawing some extra cards.
Really important for Tannon to have a Tempest Djinn on this turn. It's really the biggest creature he can bring to the battlefield. His best chance of blocking and racing, and only able to follow up here with Pteramander. Yeah,
alternatively, Merfolk Trickster here could turn off the Adonto Vanguard's ability mid-combat and eat it, which would be pretty cool. You know, I'm not sure exactly if Tannon has a Tempest Djinn or not, but occasionally you want to wait until turn 4 so you can block plus dive down.
Well, I think that he would have cast it in the spot because the dive down, you know, there isn't a whole lot that the Azorius aggro deck does in terms of answering threats. Maybe that you have a Conclave Tribunal or what have you, but in this spot, the game's going to be over so fast that I don't know if Tannon has the luxury to get as fancy as possible with his tricks.
Right. Hawkins here attacking for a large chunk. Going to trade that Sky Marcher Aspirant for the Pteramander. Tannon Grace's side casts a few ops, untap attacks, draws a card off with the Curious Obsession here. Access to 4 mana, cast Tempest Djinn with 1 up. Now, I think he's contemplating between casting Pteramander or holding up some sort of protection, whether that's Spell Pierce or Dive Down, I'm unsure. Opts to go for the Pteramander.
Good window here for Hawkins here if he has Conclave Tribunal or some other answer. 3 in the main deck here, so he has answers. If he doesn't answer it this turn, it's really bad news because he doesn't. Hawkins will not have good attacks in the face of this board, and Tannon gets to pivot and really start racing the following turn.
Yeah, and we could see just how strong Pteramander is in this mono blue deck. It's not quite as powerful as the Izzet aggro decks, but it's still quite good. Hawkins here does have the Conclave Tribunal, is still able to attack while also deploying a History of Benalia thanks to that powerful Convoke mechanic. Attacking in here with a Adonto Vanguard and a Hunted Witness, and Tannon's getting put to the test. Do I go to 6 life, or do I chump the Adonto Vanguard, or even trade with the Hunted Witness and give him the 1/1 token?
Yeah, it's a variety of bad options here. Any trade with Pteramander is really mopey, and also taking the hits no good either, so...
Yeah, Tannon here hits his 5th land drop, gets to draw a card off the attack of the Curious Obsession, but he still needs to put up a few more defenses here if he wants to survive this White Weenie onslaught. Tanking here, and this is sped up, so he's really thinking. Chapter 2 of History of Benalia gives Hawkins another Knight token. And here I can't imagine he's going to do anything but swing all out. If he has something to play pre-combat, like a Benaush Marshal, he could do that. But he may just want to keep churning out tokens with that Adonto the first fort.
Yeah, I mean, the thing that Tannon's threatening here, I guess on the table here, is a adapt on the Pteramander. And that's just not threatening enough to prevent Hawkins from attacking.
Right, but Hawkins actually in a weird spot. If he decides to pay 4 life here, that puts him down to 10. There is currently 7 power on the other side of the battlefield. Triple Curious Obsession could just kill him.
But this hit is for, if my math is correct here, this hit is putting Tannon to 1. Just go wide. You don't have to get fancy protecting any one individual threat.
Right, and it looks like Hawkins does pay the 4 life, but ends up at 12 thanks to the lifelink from the Vampire tokens. Has a huge follow-up. Snubhorn Sentry into Venerated Luxodon, and this is looking bad for Tannon. He picks him up.
And you can see, I mean, that was a really good summary of how these games play out, where Tannon can do some threatening stuff in the air, and Hawkins does not have the most recourse against that line. But when you just look pound for pound, how good are the creatures at racing? How good are they in combat against one another? And at what mana costs? Hawkins has a massive edge across the board on that front. And that combined with going first, even though Tannon's draw was quite good, he just couldn't hang on the battlefield.
Yeah, I mean, those creatures just not sizing well against Eric Hawkins' side. As far as sideboard is concerned, you can take a look along with us with the Cardboard Live extension. From Tannon Grace's side, he's down a game. We'll be looking at his first. We got 1 Deep Freeze, 1 Essence Capture, 2 Entrancing Melody, 3 Surge Merit, 2 Exclusion Mage, 3 Negate, 1 Search for Escanta, and 2 copies of Fairy Duelist?
So a lot of this is devoted to trying to shore up the creature matchups, unsurprisingly. Here.
Right.
I think the Essence Capture, the 2 Entrancing Melodies, and the 2 Exclusion Mages are there. That's a little bit on the light side, I would say, for mono blue aggro. We usually see, or I've at least seen, like kind of looking at decks online, a 3rd Exclusion Mage, a copy of Sleep in the sideboard, something to really turn around the aggro matchups, which can be a little dicey. Tannon's on the lighter side of that.
Yeah, and we're going to be looking, I'm assuming, of cutting things like Spell Pierce and Dive Down.
Yeah. The anti-spell stuff is, Hawkins' deck is just all creatures. So
yeah, from Hawkins' side, not a whole lot to bring in. Could potentially bring in Deputy of Attention and Baffling in. Aside from that, most of his cards are anti-Sultai, mid-range into Kotliana Guard, or anti-control with Disdainful Troke and Negate. And that is primarily the reason why they're splashing blue.
Yeah, I like Deputy of Detention in this matchup. There's only the 1 copy. 1 in the main, I would bring that in as well. And Baffling End's really good. Although it appears that Hawkins here now going to 5 cards.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen already once today Tannon Grace defeating this matchup because one of the games, his opponent, previously Brian Basoko, mulliganed to 5. Hawkins here going to try to cobble together something on 5. He's on the draw, though, so that extra card could help him get back in this game. Tankin here on the scry, leaves on top. Turn 1 Siren Storm Tamer for Tannon. Sky Marcher Aspirant, the follow-up. Tannon going to swing in for 1. Let's see if he has a turn 2 play. Passes the turn. Snubhorn Sentry, the play for Eric Hawkins on 2. Doesn't have any power yet, and he's not close to ascending. This is going fast and furious here. Merfolk Trickster taps the Snubhorn Sentry and attack for 3. A Fairy Duelist going to eat Sky Marcher Aspirant. You're going to see just how good it is in these post-sideboard games.
I mean, this is about how you draw it up here.
Yeah, and we are getting close to turning the round. You see, we have sped this up quite a bit. Apologies if it's a little hard to follow. I know I'm running out of breath calling these plays. I can't imagine.
Tannon is attacking with flyers, and Hawkins cannot do very much about it. And he can see. Now we're going to game 3.
Yeah, great. That was a quick game and one where Hawkins mulliganed to 5, but it's not even clear that would have been good for him, even if he had mulled to 5. That Fairy Duelist just eating a creature. Really strong start from Tannon in that game.
So this is, an interesting philosophical choice when you're doing commentary on that's sped up. You can either rapid fire call to action. Cedric Phillips very good at doing that. The other thing that you can do, my preferred path, is slow down. Just sort of call the game in broad strokes and don't try to call every single play because it's just too jarring.
I mean,
more generalize. Generalize the action. Talk in broad strokes.
This is my first time. I think I'm doing okay.
You are?
I'm trying.
You can fight the system. When you're looking at going this fast, it's easy to think that you have to match. And you can go the other way. When they zig, you zag.
Right. That's certainly true. Hawkins here going to take a look at his 7. Tannon will do the same. Hawkins going to 6. This is the recipe for success for Tannon so far in this Azorius aggro matchup. Let's see if he can get another one under his belt in this matchup that many deem as one of its worst.
Yep. I mean, game 1, Tannon had I think a very good draw by the standards of this deck for game 1 and was not really in it. Post-board here, between the mulligans and picking up good sideboard cards, might be able to steal this match.
Yep. Hawkins here is going to be on the play, though. Looks like he is really close to keeping. Oh, decides to mulligan to 5. That's never what you want to see. When you're the Azorius aggro opponent pilot in the matchup, you definitely don't want to go past 6 cards, but going to throw it back and hope for a better 5.
Yeah, he does have cards in this matchup that are worth multiple cards. History of Benalia is the most obvious example of that. Venerated Loxodon can really do a lot of heavy lifting here and making up, but he's really going to be leaning on his marquee cards to carry it at this point. A normal draw probably won't get it done.
All right, we got a keeper here from Hawkins going to lead with a Legion's Landing, and Tannon Grace matches with a Storm Tamer. Very similar draw to the last game does Eric Hawkins have, except this time Legion's Landing and triple 1-drop. What a 5-card hand, ladies and gentlemen.
pretty surprised there that Tannon elected not to block. Usually when it's 7 cards versus 5 and you're on the draw, so you're kind of another one, you just want to trade off, even if you're giving up some card quality, and really leverage the fact that your opponent doesn't have a whole lot to work with.
Yeah, and you see the reason why he didn't block because of that Curious Obsession, but keeping that Legion's Landing offline is key. And in this particular spot, it may come back to bite Tannon. No attacks on to transform the Legion's Landing, instead going for that big Venerated Luxodon play.
Yeah, I mean, it's really good battlefield here, and now it's, drawing an extra card every turn may not be that powerful for Grace if the game is played on too short of a timeline for him to leverage the extra cards.
Right. Now, next turn, you see Hawkins only has 8 permanents on the battlefield, right? But if he's able to draw any land off the top, he can actually attack with the Legion's Landing, transform it, and make a token. And the Baffling End lets him... Oh, he's 1 short. Just 1 short.
Still really good news.
Yes.
And he gets the City's Blessing next turn because he can activate the Adanto and get to 10 no matter what the draw step is.
Yeah, that was an insane top deck from Hawkins, but on a mode of 5, you need a little luck every now and again. All he needs to do here, I believe, is activate the Adanto First Fort to give himself the City's Blessing, which pushes that Snubhorn Sentry up to 4 power and 4 toughness.
And, obviously with the Obsession there, Grace has an incentive to go to the second turn with something eligible to attack. But if you go back, there's been just a slew of consequences for not trading off there earlier on in the game.
Oh, absolutely. The creature he could have traded with is now a 2/2 with lifelink, which makes racing significantly harder, as well as just having that extra creature to transform the Adanto the First Fort. Merfolk Trickster the play, tapping down Venerated Luxodon pre-combat. Hawkins still jams in with all of his creatures. A trade on the Trickster versus the Dauntless Bodyguard. Tannon Grace at 5 life. Surge Mare just bouncing off another creature. But a couple follow-ups from Tannon. He's still in this, ladies and gentlemen.
It's just very hard to race. He's going to have to win exchanges in combat because Hawkins' life total is high enough that you can't just get out of this turn and attack back for lethal. It's not going to work that way.
Right. Unfortunately for Hawkins, though, Surge Mare 5 toughness means the 4/4 Snubhorn Sentry not quite big enough to punch through that, and it kind of staircases from there. We got a Tempest Gen with 4 toughness can block one of the tokens, and then we can see just like a chump block on the 4/4 Venerated Luxodon if that's where he wants to be.
Yeah, I mean, Hawkins can kind of freely tender attacks where he knows that something's going to get swallowed up because he can replace that with the Adanto. So you don't have to worry too much about that. And then from there, what does the rest of combat look like? It looks like you're going to get a little bit of trading and a little bit of damage in. That's above the line here to be able to send in everything. Right,
and with Tannon effectively drawing 2 cards a turn thanks to Curious Obsession, he's able to continually find more and more blockers to really gum up combat for Hawkins. And with Hawkins low on overall resources thanks to that double mulligan, even though he had a great start, he's starting to fall behind here. So much so that Tannon feels like attacking with Tempest Gen is a good move.
Well, he's got to close this out.
Right.
He doesn't have all the time in the world. Tannon's flooded out pretty badly. I think his hand had at least 2 more lands in it. So you got to try to play the game short here. Try to run him down in 2 turns with your Tempest Gen.
Right. Now, there is 3 damage coming in here. Unblocked. It's going to send Tannon down to 1, and a couple points of life gain from Hawkins here is going to send him to 13, so not quite lethal. That Surge Mare pump, if Hawkins... Oh, he does have the 1 blocker from the first fort, excuse me.
Yep.
If Tannon has some sort of removal spell for that token, he could attack in here, bounce the token before blocks, pump that Surge Mare at least twice. That's 4, 11, 13... 14 points of damage.
Watching this game, sometimes you see a copy of Sleep in the sideboard. Looks a little weird.
No,
it is not. Yeah. If Grace had access to Sleep, be all over.
All right, looks like Tannon here doesn't have the kill. He has to just send in here for 2 and hope for the best. With 6 creatures potentially coming in from Eric's side, Tannon's at 1. I don't think he has it. I think he's going to lose.
Well, I mean, Hawkins, again, we're in the spot where you don't really have much recourse. You just got to send in and hope that going wide here is effective. And it looks like it is.
And that's the game. Tannon here just thinking about, hey, I could have not attacked with a Siren Storm Tamer and maybe survived.